I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a day
nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
Hello, everyone. I have Jeremy Svejcar. Did I say it right?
You did. You got it, man.
And what is that?
It's check.
I nailed it, though, right there, didn't I?
You did. You nailed it. You're one of the very few that's ever...
And I did it right off the bat.
You did.
Yeah. That's... Anyone that's reading that, go ahead and try to knock that one out.
Right.
Especially with my limited education.
Imagine being the kid in school where they tell you, hey, you need to learn how to sound out your name and spell it.
And then explain it.
And then the teacher looks at me and says, except for you.
Oh, that's awesome. So Air Force and Army.
Yes, sir.
And you're Charlie 5. So for everyone that's been to Liberty and Loyalty, you were our recipient last year.
Yes.
People understand, I think, what you do and what great things you do with Charlie 5, which we'll get into that.
Yeah.
And that it's amazing what you guys do with the the veterans and first responders and pairing them up with the horses, and you guys fit with what we do really well. The Western industry, the veterans and first responders. It's amazing what you guys do.
Yeah, the main part of it is getting a horse to an individual. But other parts of our mission are trying to bridge the gap between the warrior community and the Western way of life. Mm-hmm. Talking about organizations like Liberty and Loyalty, our friends at War Horses, our friends at these other organizations that do a good job of trying to bridge that gap and offer opportunities for men and women, and trying to just plug men and women into this way of life. There's no greater place for an individual who served, whether it be in the military or at home, to be. There's such a welcoming community in the Western way of life, and the values and the morals that are there were shared. So
it's one of the last ones is that way in the perspective.
Absolutely,
it's very welcoming, very humble. I think I always told everyone in the Western industry, you're going to work a lot harder for less. So a lot of hard-working people. And, when I watch the military guys and the veterans and the first responders and the top guys that rope, and you start seeing that camaraderie with one another, it's funny to watch how easy it is for them to communicate, because we're kind of all outcast in one perspective.
Right. And there's so many different things for individuals, for veterans to do to get involved, whether it's team roping. Some of our guys are into the rein cow horse, cutting and just going out there and riding trails or doing any of that stuff. I mean, I got guys that do day work on ranches and stuff like that. There's the community itself is just a wonderful place to be. And I love it. And I'm so glad and proud to be accepted and accept you guys are so accepting. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you're in the military? Well, let's plug you in somewhere.
Yeah. Well, and I think, too, with you guys pairing the military and first responders with the horsemanship, I remember Chris Cox telling me one time, it's amazing how much you'll find out about what's going on the inside of you through horsemanship.
Right.
And, because if you're testy to your horse, is that your nature? Are you passive and letting the horse run all over you? Well, is that your nature? It's a funny what you'll find a lot of stuff out about yourself in your horsemanship.
Absolutely. And in that working with the horses, if, for lack of a better term, forces us to be aware of what's going on around us and not focus so much on ourselves, but focusing on exactly what we're doing. And the most important part is being present.
Yes.
Being present and being there with the horse. And once you learn how to start being present and being there with your horse, that starts to trickle into your everyday life. your family starts getting better, your family life starts getting better, your work life starts getting better, things around you start getting better, and you're having a hard time, you can go put your hands on a horse. I've done it. I did it at Chris's place in Wyoming. I was overwhelmed with anxiety talking to him, so I went out and just started putting my hands on horses, and I was able to calm down and relax and get back in there and get after stuff. So that's the best part about it, and that's really the why. Getting guys to come back. I can tell you, I didn't come home until I started working with horses again.
Now, where are you from?
I was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico. My dad retired from the fire department there, and we moved to Colorado, Buena Vista, Colorado, when I think I was a teenager.
Now, do you still live in New Mexico?
Yes, I live about 20 miles east of Albuquerque and Edgewood.
So you're here in Fort Worth this week. So what do you have going on this week?
Something really cool. One of our recipients, his name's Derek, served in the Marine Corps. We got him a horse earlier this year, and he's actually going to participate in the Horns and Heroes Clinic. And I've watched him ride. I've been helping him, kind of coaching him over the phone, and he really needed some work on his horsemanship, on his riding. So working with our friends at War Horses for Veterans in Kansas, Jake just happened to be down here showing in the fraternity and said, hey, let's put on a mini clinic for Derek. Let's help him improve his riding skills. Let's help him improve there and get him set up to be more successful and get more out of the roping side of
me and Trey's clinic.
Yeah. And because I've seen your clinic, and you'll help guys with their horsemanship, but if I can get them there and really help them focus on roping.
If they can already ride, for sure, that does help. That really does, yeah. They get so much more out of it. And for everyone that understands what the Horns and Heroes Clinic is, that's the clinic that Trey and I do during our American Heroes celebration. And so we take 8 headers and 8 healers, and they have to apply. And I believe the application is from June to July 1st. Right. And we had over 100 or almost 100 applications this year for the clinic.
I was one of them.
That's wild, isn't it?
And I got chosen to be a healer.
Nice. You get to get Trey? Oh, you're going to love it.
I've known Trey for a little bit, and he helped with one of our clinics so there's so much to what we do. So we do a lot of partner work with War Horses for Veterans. They have incredible horses out there. They have a really good program. So last year, for the first time, I got a group of veterans together, group of my guys together to go to War Horses and spend 5 days there doing a clinic. And I convinced Trey to come out for a day and spend time with us for a day. And he came out and helped us, worked with the on the fellowship side, and prayed with us and worked with us, and just set the tone for the rest of the week. It was an incredible week. So
I think this year there's a couple people that have went through the clinic and have been to the jackpots that are wanting to get baptized after the clinic on Thursday.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
that would be just
it's going to be great, isn't it?
Yeah.
People giving their life to Christ. And I don't know, we'd never kept track, of how many we've that have given their life to Christ through Trey's ministry at the clinic that we've done, but it's been a lot. And so it'll be cool this year to be able to baptize.
I gave my life to Christ a long time ago, but I didn't quite understand how things work. And Trey said something to me. It was just a powerful moment in that he said, you were washed in the blood, and that his grace went before you and it came after you. So anything, like, I had a lot of guilt after I came home from my deployments, and had a lot of stuff going on internally. And for a long time, I lived my life like, well, I don't know if I'll ever get into heaven, because I didn't understand, right? I didn't have the understanding, and I never went out of my way to learn. But he said, when he said that, I was like, you mean I can get in? Like, I can get in the way I am now. Like, I believe I've accepted, but I really get to go to heaven? Like, it was I was bawling. It was incredible because I didn't understand how it worked. And
he does such a good job of he knows the Bible so well. I mean, I can ask him one thing, and because I'm still green in my journey. My goal has been this year, and my Bible app I've been really pumped. I'm at 298 days in a row on my Bible app.
Good for you. I know.
And so I'm excited about that. But that was my goal this year, is to try to be able to apply more Bible scriptures to situations.
Right.
How do I handle certain situations where I can apply a scripture to that, So I don't feel the anxiety creeping in. I don't feel the anger, the footsteps of the anger before the tornado comes. All that stuff, things like that. And he does such a good job with that. He can just nail a scripture right out the bat, off the top of his head.
And someone that's been through your clinic too, that's been my coach and actually a recipient of a horse through our program, Greg Zeal.
Mm-hmm.
He's been my coach a lot of the way. We actually have a group of us that gets together. We do one like Bible study a month, and we all work together and share our stuff, and it keeps everybody in check, helps everybody keep up and stay in contact. And so I've been around the Horns and Heroes Clinic. I've been coming out for the last few years, and I've watched it. I've watched what it does for the people who come in on so many different levels, from their walk their walk with the Lord all the way through their horsemanship to just getting guys out. I think that's one of the biggest things, is plugging people in to something and giving them some direction, giving them a mission and a direction. That's the most important thing. You give them a direction and you give them something to do, and we're going to go do it. And we're going to do it to the best of our ability, because that's what we were trained to do. That's what we were made to do.
Well, I think God designed us with purpose.
Right.
Men are designed to have purpose.
Right.
And I think a guy gets lost when you're not sure what that purpose is and what it is anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. At one point in time, probably in my darkest hours, I was your society's picture of success. I had a nice house, I had a nice car, I had a beautiful wife, I had a great job with a pension. I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. I had no purpose. I had no real direction.
Yeah. And that seems to be very common when people come back, huh?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think what happens is you get caught up in, one, leaving something that has been such a big part of you, the camaraderie that's there, the brotherhood and the sisterhood that you have there, being somebody. I was important. I was an important guy in the Army. I was in charge of other soldiers. I directed them. I mentored them. I loved them. And I get out and I go work in a job where I'm a number. I'm a number. I show up at 9. I get off at 5, go home, pet the dog and water the lawn,
Yeah.
And so not being someone anymore, not having any purpose or direction it was horrible.
Yeah.
It was hard.
The one thing that was pretty cool in the fact of when I seen there was almost 100 applicants, is for everyone to understand, this is for people who've never been to the clinic before. It's not like we're getting a bunch of 100 repeats. Right. This is 100 military first responders that have never been to the clinic.
Right.
And so that was pretty cool that's getting out there. And so yeah, we're excited about it. It's going to be pretty cool with Trey being there with the baptism, and then our military first responder open. We have 60,000 added to it. It's going to be wild. It's going to be so much fun.
You know how many horses I could buy for guys with $60,000?
I love it. Have you been watching? Have you been keeping up with? So we're here in Fort Worth. We're at the Rope Horse Fraternity. Have you been keeping up with what's going on in there?
A little bit on both sides. On the Rope Horse Fraternity, obviously, you're interested in the rope horse fraternity side. I'm interested in both sides, the rope horse and the snaffle bit fraternity. I got friends over there that are showing in that. So I'm trying to keep up with both sides. A little bit.
Well, Trevor Brazil just won the 4-year-old, the 3-4-year-old incentive. And this horse, so Trevor had a rank head horse back in the day called Banker. And that's the one he won the BFI on. He was rank. I got to ride him. He was so cool, so fast. And he's got this horse called RR Gunner's Affair. And this son of a gun looks just like Banker. Okay. And he won the 4-year-old. He scored a 236 on his last one. And so that horse was a 944 on 4 head. And that horse is also high call for the Open, 4-year-old. All right. I think I read where 4 out of the top 5 holes for the Open this evening are all 4-year-olds.
Wow.
It's wild. Driggers, he won second on a horse called Blown in Time. And he looked, I think it was a little Blue Roan. and he looked ranked. He was a 238, almost a 239 in the short round. He won second.
Wow.
That horse was ranked. And then this one's going to be around a long time. This is a mare, Relentless PYC. Then Miles Baker rode. She won the 4-year-old incentive at out there, the Old West out there in Utah, and won $50,000 for the 4-year-old. So she's racking up some money won as a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Because those mares, they're going to have earnings.
Right.
From the 4-year-old to the 5-year-old to the 6-year-old. And so, yeah, she's racking up some earnings
that's
big
amazing.
time already. Then we'll go to the Heelan here if we can find. I'm sure my boy Joey got him. I know he roped a leg to do real good on one horse. If I can find it right here. I know he won the Heelan. I don't know if the Heelan's up here yet. Yeah, I'm trying to look at it. Just got the head, but he ended up winning it and ran off with it. He had a little bay in there that looked sweet. So he won it, but he had a chance to win, I think, first and second maybe again, but he's been having a stellar year.
Good.
His horsemanship and his Heelan he is in a league of his own. He's doing what, he won first, second, and third at that fraternity out there in Utah.
Okay.
I think he won over $200,000 out there in one fraternity, and so his stuff is just looking stellar. He's gotten a training program that's so good. Them horses are so confident with what they're doing and how they're doing it. They all look alike. They use their feet good, and he's learned how to find what he's looking for to be able to get them horses under him. So
absolutely,
the short round tonight is going to be really good watching. So this is a heck of an event. So I would plan for a lot of people to either be watching it online or come to this event. It's a hard place to find a parking spot, but it's worth it.
It's
worth the ticket just
walk,
to come.
Got to walk a little bit. That's all right. Never hurt nobody.
Or just keep getting these warning stickers on my window. I don't know if you can see how many I've had on here so far. But
Everybody gets it. It's all right.
But yeah, this is a great event. So you started off in the Air Force, you said.
Yeah.
So you had kind of a weird transition from one to the next.
Yeah, it's
but
very.
When did you start the Air Force?
Started the Air Force November 1st, 2000.
So it was the year before 9/11.
Year before 9/11. Had some training stuff that I got injured in training, so they moved me into another job and went to work. I went to my first duty station in Del Rio, Texas. And stationed down there, got down there, and my goal and intent going in the Air Force, I'm going to do 4 years, I'm going to get out. I'll get my GI Bill benefits and all that stuff. Things are kind of calm in the world at the time. I mean, we still had troops over in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and stuff like that, but I'll just do my 4 years and get out. And I worked in the gym on that installation, and I was carrying a load of towels to go wash. Pitiful job, right? Washing gym towels at the gym in the Air Force. And I walked through the room where they have all the cardio equipment, and it's building smoking in New York, and what's going on? And walk back through, and I watched the second plane hit, and I changed my mind right there. I realized in that moment that we were being attacked. This was more than some drunk pilot flying his plane into a building, and I said, I'm going to do more. And I volunteered for the first deployment I could get on. I went overseas, Kuwait, and did security detail did security there for that deployment, and came home and transitioned out of the active Air Force. I wanted to move on and do different things, and stayed in the Air National Guard, which was culture shock for me, and eventually ended up transitioning out of the Air National Guard into the Army National Guard, where from virtually day one, I was on active duty.
What was the reason for the transition?
I knew the Air Force wasn't going to allow me to do the things that I wanted to pursue. I wanted it, oddly enough, I wanted to be in the infantry. I wanted to be on the ground. I was 20 something years old. I wanted to kick indoors. I wanted to jump out of airplanes. I wanted to throw grenades. I wanted to go fight for my country. And I really wanted to do what my grandfather did. I wanted to do what my brother had done.
And what did they do?
My grandfather served in World War II. He was a medic in World War II in the Pacific. My brother,
What branch was that?
was the Army.
Army.
He's in the Army. My brother served in the Army. He served in Bosnia, which is a period of time and conflict that gets overlooked a lot. He saw a lot of stuff over there and went through a lot of stuff, doing supposed to be humanitarian kind of efforts with NATO and stuff like that, and it's pretty rough. My dad served in the Army in Korea, on the DMZ and stuff like that in the 60s. So pretty scary times, and I just was called to serve. I've always been called to serve, but at the time I didn't really understand it. And I just wanted to do more. I wanted to be more. And transitioning over to the Army National Guard was a good fit because I could try to pursue a career, but still serve and do the things I wanted to do. And I did. I went to infantry school, and I think I went to infantry school in September, and I got put on alert in November and deployed that following August or September. So I went from being an Air Force cook, basically, an Air Force fitness person, to being a grunt in the Army in like a year. So big change, huge change, and probably one of the best decisions I ever made. I mean, I loved it. I loved being a soldier. I loved doing it.
More to do.
There was just, I loved the camaraderie. I loved the closeness. On my way here, driving down from Decatur, I was on the phone with one of my best friends I served in the Army with. We're still good friends. He sold me my first horse. But it's, I just love being a part of it. I loved being that I fit in, and I could get plugged in where I needed to be, and that people saw value in what I did, and I had purpose and I had a direction. So, that was a big part of the reason for the change.
And then how long were you in the military?
Right at 10 years.
Right at 10 years.
Right at 10 years. I came to the end of my enlistment right before 10 years, and I made a hard decision. It wasn't hard, but it was, that do I stick it out for another 10 and do 20, or do I get out? I just wanted to pursue other things. I wanted to start a family, and I wanted to do that kind of stuff. So, and I was staring down the barrel, if you will, of another deployment. And honestly, mentally and emotionally at the time, it wouldn't have been great. So, I decided to go my own way.
So what was it like then after 10 years coming back home and trying to make that transition after you got out of the military?
It was one of the more difficult things I ever done. I remember coming home from my last day and taking off my uniform, folding it, and going and taking a shower and just weeping and just sobbing. I made the choice. It was my choice, but I was done, and I was trying to accept the fact that I was done. I was no longer Sergeant Svejcar anymore. I was just Jeremy, just a guy, and I left that behind, and it was hard. It was hard to make that transition out, and it wasn't truly realizing the impact that deployments had on me. I deployed with the Army, did convoy escorts into Iraq, did some security detail stuff in Iraq and in theater, and it wears on you. The best way to explain it is doing convoy escorts is like going down a big interstate highway, escorting 30 semi trucks and praying for every inch of road to not blow up. We were there at the height of IEDs. IEDs were everywhere. I'm just praying and just hoping that the road just doesn't explode underneath me. And
so then when you get home, that's got to be hard to turn off.
Even
though you're driving down a road that you're pretty sure is not got an IED on it, back home, but that's still got to be hard to turn off. Like always looking, always being aware. What do they call it? Red alert.
Yeah.
What are the 3 stages? Red. Is it yellow? And
anymore? It's been so long.
I remember Bill was telling me like red
yellow.
alerts. Red. If you stay on red too long, like it's not good for you.
Yeah, that was exactly where I was, because our ops tempo was so high. Like we would come off a convoy at like midnight, and they'd say, "Okay, you have another convoy starting at 0700 tomorrow." So I'd get off convoy at midnight. I'd basically clean all my weapons, take care of all my business, and then go sleep for a couple hours, and then go right back at it. And you're going down the road again, doing the same thing. And so you never come down. You're always living your life up here. And you spend a long time doing that, like Bill said, like you were alluding to Bill. You spend enough time living up here, you get back to the civilian world and you stay there. And that's a big thing it's killing guys, because we live our life at such a high level of intensity that you come back to, I hate to say it this way, but this, where there's no intensity, how do you
so lost without, not having that feeling and being unfamiliar almost with yourself.
Right. And for me personally, living there and not being able to turn it off or trying to turn it off, I turned to alcohol.
Because that seems common.
Yeah, because it numbs and it dulls everything.
It numbs it, it quiets it down.
But then
it comes home to roost if you're not careful.
Right. Absolutely. And it doesn't take the problem away. You're not facing it. You're not moving toward it. You're not addressing it. You're just
pushing it down the road.
Pushing it down the road. So I just became angry and withdrawn over time. And this is years. From the time I got out to the time I found direction, it was years. And I just got worse. I became a bad person. Not like I wasn't robbing banks or anything, but I was bad to the people around me. I treated people around me poorly, so I'd keep my distance. I remember specifically, I'd go home and see my mom and dad in Colorado, a couple, 3 times a year, but I wouldn't stick around too long because I knew my mom would see. I was afraid my mom would see too deep inside. So
what were you scared that she was going to see? Alcohol or the hurt?
The hurt,
or I guess you almost call it confused. If you're not sure what's going on inside you, you got to be confused a little bit too. Or is that a good word or another word?
There's hurt, and there's things that we talk about in what's going on. We talk about there's a term that gets used some. It's called moral injury. You're making choices that go against your morals deep down, but you have to make these choices, whether it's to save a life. You take a life to save a life. You do things, the high level of intensity and not being able to bring that down. There's a lot of terms that are thrown out there. And it was just seeing that I couldn't come down. I was always living there. I didn't sleep. I hardly ate. I left when I came home from my last deployment in 2006, I think. I'm 5'10". I weighed like 110 pounds. I was sick. I was so amped up all the time. I was sick. I had ulcers. I was sick. And everybody saw it. And I just I wasn't functioning. But I met my wife, and she helped me kind of function. She's the daughter of a Vietnam vet. So she's familiar with acting like, or living with jerks like I was. Yeah. So she helped me just maintain as best she could. And she's incredible for that.
So when you got home and seen mom and dad,
I just kind of keep hi mom, love you, keep my distance.
Real surface.
Surface.
Yeah.
And I would go, I'm going to go over here and see this person. I'm going to go over here and see this person. I'm going to stay away. And I think it's more important for people to understand when I don't think at that point I'd been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder or anything like that. I think I was just trying to function. It's hard for people to understand how that manifests itself and what comes out. People often think, oh, you're just a crazy guy, right? It manifests itself as anger, anxiety, depression. And so when things happen, you don't have the tools to manage that stuff, right?
Bill, he talked about it really good, to where it was, for me as a civilian, it was a good analogy where, I could kind of somewhat understand it. He said, basically when you're in the military, it's like a freight train. It's just going so fast.
Yeah.
Anything that happens, you just throw it in the back of the caboose.
Yeah.
Anything that happens, you just throw it in the back of the caboose, whether it's a trauma, whether it's whatever ill things that you saw or dealt with or experienced, mm-hmm. You just kept on moving. That train just kept on rolling, right? Whatever it was, you just put it behind you. You put it in the caboose. And he said then coming home was like all of a sudden that freight train just coming to a complete stop and hitting something. And all of those thoughts and everything comes crashing in. And all of a sudden now you're trying to deal with it at once because everything's slowed down.
Yep. And it consumes you.
And it overwhelms
you. and you're afraid of the resources that are there to take care of you. You're afraid of them because you don't want to get labeled as crazy. You don't want to get labeled as that
Pride.
Yeah. And
Pride and ego almost gets in your way to.
And you don't, I think a lot of it is you don't want to be that guy. Oh, look at him. He's the sissy that went to the doctor. Right. And so I lived with that for quite a while. And I went to college and I tried to do my best in school, but I would get so overwhelmed with just being around so many people because I'm always looking and wondering what's going on. I see everybody walking behind us, even in the pickup right now. I know what's going on here.
I figured Corey Cushion walked by a second ago too, and it kind of I was like, I wonder what horse he's riding.
Right? I'm watching Chris Dawson slide.
Yeah, I was seeing that too.
I get.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah. So I'm watching everything that's going on. That's something that'll never leave me.
Yeah.
I went to college, and I go to the school, and I'd just be so many people around me. I'd just become overwhelmed with what's going on around me, and I'd black out. I'd literally black out. I'd go to that space, that tunnel vision, where my ears are ringing, my face is on fire, and I just got tunnel vision, and I'd just go sit in a class and wait for the class to be over, and then I'd get out. I made it through school, got my degree and stuff like that, and I had.
Did it help? Did going through that enough times to where did it start quieting down a little bit, just out of doing it over and over and over again? I guess is that what you say?
To some degree, I started going to therapy at the VA. And I have a very good therapist at the VA. I still see to this day. This is years later. I'm still seeing the same therapist. And she helped me with tools, but you have to be willing to work. That's the important thing. You have to be willing to do the work in order to get through it. Like with anything, whether it's roping, whether it's, running and sliding on a horse and doing rein cow horse or reining or whatever, you have to be able to put in the work. Well, you don't necessarily have all the tools in place to put in the work, and you're afraid to do the work. Well, you're not going to get very far. So it came to a head right around 2015. I had experienced a considerable amount of loss. I lost a couple grandparents. I lost an aunt, lost my brother. My brother passed away very suddenly. And guys from my unit committed suicide. And it builds, and you're not processing all the old stuff. So how are you going to process the new stuff? And I felt like I was just becoming a burden on the people around me. Like I just turned into a big jerk. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to do anything. And anytime I was invited somewhere to do something, I would just get angry. Instead of saying, I don't feel comfortable doing that, I would get mad. I would get raging mad.
Why do you think that is?
Because I didn't want them to see that I couldn't. So my brain would tell me, just get mad. That's the dumbest thing ever you would ever want to do. I don't want to go do that. That's just stupid. But that's how it would come out. Instead of saying, I physically and mentally and emotionally can't handle going to, it started like a baseball game or a concert, to I physically and mentally can't function going to the grocery store.
Right.
So I started really seriously thinking about what's the best. I don't know what the word is, best way, easiest way. It wasn't easy. It wasn't, how do I fix this? And the only thing I could come up with is if I remove myself from the equation, the burden that I am placing on these other important people in my life will become easier. Their life will improve. I could not give my wife the life that she deserved to live. So if I was gone, if I took myself out of the equation, it's going to be painful. I recognize that. I recognize it would be hard. I recognized all the negative things that it would cause, but she would get over it in time. And I started really seriously.
Sounds like a lot of guilt too.
A lot of guilt, huge amount of guilt. I just realized that if I was out of the equation, if I killed myself, then she's going to go on with her life. And then I'll be done. She'll go on with her life. They'll go on with their lives. They'll remember me and they'll be sad that I'm gone, but it won't be so raw and painful. So I was seriously thinking about how I was going to do it. I'd sit in my cubicle at work and draw diagrams of how I was going to kill myself. And the plan was ultimately that I wanted to make it such a complex plan that nobody would think it was just something I did on a whim, that I thought it through. And this was the last resort, and this was the last thing I could do. This was the last measure. And because I didn't want people to think, oh my God, we never knew. And like, no, I'm going through stuff. People didn't know till a couple years after I started Charlie 5, really where I was at. So I found a program that involved horses in the mountains. And I said, what the heck? I like being in the mountains. And I grew up around horses, grew up working on a ranch in Colorado. And through high school, I rode bareback horses in high school. And so I applied to the program and forgot. Well, they called me a few months later and asked me if I wanted to participate. And I said, I didn't even answer yes. It's kind of funny. I just told their representative, said, I have to talk to my wife. So I went to my wife's office and told her about it. And from that day forward, I never looked back. I didn't look back in a negative way.
Now, what do you mean you didn't look back? Like you never thought about suicide ever again?
Oh, no. What I mean is that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it to 100%. I'm taking the steps to take charge of my life. This is my last ditch effort to give my wife the life that she deserves to live and be the kind of man that I should be. So I'm going to put everything I have into it and see how it turns out. I'm not looking back at that other stuff going, well, I feel bad and I'm horrible. And no, I'm going to go do it.
Not going to be a puss no more.
Right.
I'm going to man up.
I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
And I went. I mean, like movie style, like I'm getting ready to go through security at the airport to fly to Montana. And I gave my wife a big hug and a kiss, and I walked through security and I did not look back. I said, I'm not going back to that. Mm-hmm. And I went and I did it and I succeeded. One of the biggest things I got out of it was I'm doing it. Nobody's doing it for me. Nobody's going to pick you up and move you forward. I have to do the work myself. And I was doing it. I'm sitting on a horse in the wilderness and I'm going, and this horse is not a good horse. Fighting the horse the whole way, literally hundreds of miles through the mountains. And I'm fighting this horse the whole way, but I'm doing it and I'm surviving and I'm making it. I'm becoming a leader to the horse. I'm learning how does leadership translate to your horsemanship? How does leadership translate to your everyday life, into the workplace, into your family and stuff like that? I'm starting to learn this, like better communication, being open, being present, being here, right? I can't change anything that happened to me over there, but I can live my life in the moment here and be present here and look forward. I started to learn that. And I apprenticed under a horse trainer, old cowboy in Wyoming, and spent a month with him training horses and working with horses. And he really just kind of kicked me in the butt and, wake me up with a cup of coffee in the morning, singing Zippity Doo-Dah and go out and ride horses all day and yell at me through the fence and force me to use the skills and attributes that I had acquired during my military service. Leadership, situational awareness, things like that, to work with these young horses. Well, you do that long enough, just like you do all the stuff you do in the military becomes habitual, and it starts to translate and trickle down into your everyday life. And I start figuring out how to be present. And I got done with that, and I didn't have any money, but I got home. Part of the story is I drove back from Wyoming in my apprenticeship, and I stopped at Mom and Dad's house. And
this is in Colorado?
Yeah. And I get to the house, and mom makes supper, and we're getting ready to, have supper, and I sit down and eat supper, telling mom and dad about all my experiences, everything I'd gone through in Montana, riding horses, doing all this cool stuff, packing and stuff. And I finished my supper, and I pick up my plate, and I went and sat it down in the sink, and I turned around and I looked at my mom and my dad, and I looked around the house, and I just started crying. And my mom looked at me, son, what's and I said, Mom, I'm home. I'm finally home. And that was the first time in 10 years I felt like I was at home.
Was it that you were home, or was it you felt like you're back?
I'm home. I left big chunks of me over there. I'll never get them back.
Mm.
And I kept those chunks over there, and I kept going back to those places.
Mm.
But I'd never hugged my mom like that. I hadn't hugged my mom like that in 10 years.
Mm.
I hadn't hugged my mom the way you're supposed to hug your mom in 10 years. I hadn't hugged my dad like that. My mom and dad moved while I was deployed to a different house. I'd been to that house 100 times. I never was in that house.
Mm. Mm.
I was always somewhere else.
Yeah. I see what you're saying now.
And I got back to the house, drove back to New Mexico the next day, and started thinking about, well, what am I going to do? Like, if I don't keep working with horses, if I don't keep doing stuff with horses, I'm going to go back that way. And I don't want to go back there. I can't go back there. I was riding a high. I was doing well. I was able to function. I told my wife, she's so-and-so and so-and-so. They're going, I'll never forget. They're going to a Darius Rucker concert. They invited us to go. I said, let's go. I went to a Darius Rucker concert. I didn't touch a beer. I didn't drink. I didn't pregame before the show. I went to that concert and watched that concert. I was there. I was present. It was hard. It was difficult to function, but I had learned tools to see my way through it. I learned tools to be present, to be aware of my surroundings and be there instead of going there half in the bag. And so I started talking to my wife. Well, I can't afford horses. We lived in a subdivision that wouldn't allow us to have horses. What do I do? And the skills that I learned in my apprenticeship, I started thinking, well, if I could just take a horse here and there and train it a little bit, sack it out and get it to be just an easygoing horse, I can give these horses to other people, give them to programs that help people, and that will give me what I need to keep moving forward in this direction. And so I took the $200 and some odd we had in our savings account. My wife, my genius of a wife, helped me write up bylaws for a nonprofit. We took that money and sank it into it, and we started Charlie 5 as a way to keep me going and keep me moving forward with horses and fulfill what God had told me my purpose is in life through this whole process to help other people. I learned that in the mountains. You're here on earth to help people. That's why you're here. That's why you joined the military. That's why you fought fire you were a firefighter. That's why you work for the police department. That's why when there's a wreck on the freeway, you're the first guy to jump out of your pickup and go help them out, right? These are all things that I experienced that it never dawned on me, but I'm here.
Well, it's amazing too when you talk, and biblically,
mm-hmm.
When you're able to give yourself up to Jesus, when you're able to give yourself up,
mm-hmm.
and it's an odd way to look at it. It really is, because you're trying to say, how do you give yourself up?
Absolutely.
And when you do, and when the guy does learn that, I was watching a podcast on Joe Rogan on Jelly Roll,
mm-hmm.
and he was talking about some of his best stuff that he started writing when he wasn't writing about himself. He said, I was thinking of others, and I was thinking about what they were going through. And it's amazing what ends up happening where you can get rid of so much self-pity
mm-hmm.
by thinking of others and not thinking about yourself and almost giving yourself up to. And I think that's what, I know Trey talks a lot about, is when you give your life to Christ.
Yep.
You're giving your life to Christ, and you're not putting the focus on you. And it's a hard transition though.
It was an incredibly difficult transition. The interesting thing was I grew up in a household. My mom and dad are Christians, and they very strong in their faith, and I grew up in that. And I've always had my faith. And there was a period in my life where I became very angry at God for what I was dealing with and what I was going through, because I couldn't see the forest for the trees, why those things were happening. I didn't have any control over them, but I sat down and talked to someone about my faith, and there was a point where I used to call God Fred. I was so angry, I would call him Fred. Fred doesn't like me, but this, I was talking to him about my faith and stuff like that. God doesn't like me, and so on and so forth. And he says, and I talked to him, and we yell at each other and go back and forth. And he goes, it's funny, you never stopped talking to him. If you're mad at him so bad, you probably would have stopped talking to him. And it clicked. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I never stopped talking to him. Maybe I'd have just asked him to start showing me the direction that I need to go. And so my faith kicked back in a positive way. And like I said, it came down to I want to keep working with horses. I want to help people. I want to use this gift that I've been given to move forward, to help people move forward, to help them in any way I can.
So you started with $200.
Yep.
In Charlie 5.
In Charlie 5.
So how did you get it to where it's at now after that?
Persistence, try. Had a lot of try. Chris Cox played a pivotal role in helping us establish some legitimacy. So not to plug, but to plug a little bit. I rode a horse through the mountains of Montana, and 5-Star Equine donated some pads to this outfit. And I rode the same horse, and that horse never soared. Never had back sores or anything like that. And I noticed that horse had a 5-star pad. At this point in the game, I'd been out of horses for so long, I didn't know anything else. But I noticed that horse did really well. Didn't soar. So I in December, I founded, oddly enough, Charlie 5 was founded on November 11th, 2016. That's when we got everything going. Veterans Day, 2016. December, I wrote a letter to 5-Star asking them if they would discount the price of a pad to help me move forward so I could train horses and have a good saddle pad. I didn't even have a saddle, Charlie. I didn't have a saddle. I asked for a saddle pad. They sent me 5 saddle pads and said, we're happy to help you out.
Good for them.
So fast forward a couple years, they call me and they say, hey, we want to take you out and do some promo stuff in Wyoming. You want to go? I'm like, hey, I'm down for a free trip. Let's do it. So they flew me out to Wyoming to Chris Cox place. And
up there in Jackson Hole?
In Du Bois. And I thought I was just shooting promos, like they were going to have me ride a horse or something like that. And I sat down with Chris and told him my story. And he looked at the 5-Star people at Terry Moore, and he said, I can't just do a segment on him. We got to do a whole show. I had no idea what was going on. I'm that kind of oblivious. And I sat down with Chris and I told him my story and I told him about what we were doing. And the show aired and we exploded. We took off. Not only was I getting calls from individuals who were willing to help and help us move forward, the greatest thing that I got from that, and I have them all, I save them all, is I've got emails and DMs through social media from veterans, from spouses, from other people, parents, brothers and sisters who say, I or my husband watched that show. I remember one specifically. I got an email from a lady whose husband was in the Marine Corps, served in Afghanistan and in Iraq, and she said, my husband doesn't talk a whole lot, but he had me come in and watch the Chris Cox show, and he sat there in silence. And at the end of the show, he stood up and looked at me as he was walking out of the room. And he says, "That's what I feel like. That's what I felt like."
What do you think it was? Was it just kind of some of the stuff that you've already talked about?
Yeah,
that you brought up on the show, where people were relating to it?
Yeah, absolutely. People were relating to it. We don't like to talk, and I'll talk your ear off.
That's what keeps it internalized, right? And that's right. What it's like poison.
Right.
You've got to get it out. You got to get it out of there.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you the war stories. That's not important. The important thing for me to tell is that I struggled too. This was my struggle. I struggled too, and that I felt alone. Nobody alienated me. I was alienating everybody else and avoiding everything because I didn't want to mess with it. But when I started facing it, and when I started to accept the fact that I cannot change anything that happened over there, I can't change it, but I can sure as heck do my best to make my future better. People started to see that, and things started to happen. We started growing on social media a little significantly from where we were. We're not big. We don't have a huge presence. We have like 1,500, 2,000 followers on social media, but things started happening. Just before that, I was able to give our first horse to a veteran, and I shared that story.
What year was that?
2017. I hadn't even been doing our business for a year. I was able to get a horse and get it to a veteran in 2017. I believe it was 2017. And you've experienced this, I know. I'm at home. It's 10 o'clock at night. I get a phone call from the veteran, and it's 10 o'clock at night. This ain't good. So I answer the phone. She'd only had the horse for a couple weeks, and I answer the phone, and I'm trying, hi, trying to sound upbeat, like, this can't be bad. And she said, Jeremy? I said, yeah. There was a long pause. I was like, oh my goodness, this isn't. She said, thank you. This horse has changed my life. It was like a 7 or 8 year old BLM horse that I got. He had like 20 rides on him, and I went out and rode trail cows on him and stuff like that, and worked him and took him down to her. And she, I mean, I could hardly ride. He's rough horse. He's a tough horse. Those BLM horses are tough horses to work with. And she said, Jeremy, I get up every morning and I go feed, and I lay on his back while he's eating, and we do everything together. These last 2 weeks, he goes everywhere with me. We do everything together. And she's gone on to do other great things and started mounted search and rescue stuff and do on that horse, and other veterans that come our way that I've been able to help, or that we've been able to help. And it's just another log on the fire every time. And so as we get more horses out, as we hear that they're being successful, that they're doing good things with their horse, it continues to help our organization grow. 2 of our guys that have received horses through us at Charlie 5 have gone through your clinic. 3 guys. Greg Zeal, John Tidwell, Jake Greenleaf. Jake Greenleaf was like my 3rd recipient. We got him a horse, and he's gone on to do incredible things. I'm really proud and great friends with him. He works for that outfit, like I said, and War Horses. They do a lot of stuff with performance horses, with rain cow horses and stuff like that. So they do clinics with 5 veterans or first responders, and they're just doing awesome stuff with them, and they're helping those guys change their lives. And we got Jake a horse. He was working and living on a farm in Illinois. He said, I want a horse that I can go check cows on. We got him a horse to go check cows on, and it grew from there, and he ended up getting that job at War Horses. Some people are familiar with the story. It was in Team Roping Journal, but when he took that job at War Horses, I was looking for a horse for Greg Zeal, and I'm talking on the phone with Jake. Said, hey, you're in the business now. You're around horses all the time. If you come across a horse that might be a good fit for this guy, Greg, let me know. And he said, well, what about my horse? I said, I'm not using him in the program. He's a great horse. He's come a long way. You can rope off of him. You can do that kind of stuff. Why not take that horse and pass it along? Those are the great things that happen with these men and women. And I'm not just taking, I build relationships with these people before they even get a horse. They got to be invested. They got to be willing to do the work. They're going to put in the effort, because the horse doesn't get a choice in the matter, right? I get a horse to someone, I'm raising the money, or we're putting things together to get a horse to a guy. They got to put in the work. That's important, because again, the horse don't get a choice.
Yeah.
You dump them off in their yard and you drive away. So we have fail safes in place, and we try to do our best to make sure that we keep up with everybody. And thankfully, we've been able to keep up with people and do the work that we're doing and keep it moving forward.
Yeah, because that's one of the things I think too, is that making sure that that horse is going somewhere where there's an understanding that this horse depends on you to stay alive.
Absolutely.
So, if you decide that you go self-destructive mode, hey, you got to remember that there's something that depends on you. I mean, through these things.
If you look at it, how many movies have you seen, like war movies, have you seen where the guy gets shot in the war movie and he's like, no, go on without me? It's like almost a real life attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not going to let my guy down. So you're taken out of the military. You don't have that going on anymore. So now you're given a horse. You're not going to let that horse down. You're not going to let that horse down. That becomes
you start creating purpose.
Exactly. And it, I look at the transformations that these people have undergone, these men and women have undergone, that we've been able to help and to serve, and that I've been able to become a part of their lives. And they have purpose. They're going on to do bigger and better things. They're going on to take care of other people. Every single one of them is doing something to help others, to serve, to continue their service, because that's one thing we all have in common is our dedication to duty and our service.
What do you think it was that, because you said even when you were with Charlie 5, there were still thoughts of suicide. What do you think? When did you think? And what was a pivotal point that you were like, yeah, we're not going to think about that no more?
I think after I finished up my apprenticeship, I didn't have to look at that anymore. I had established the tools that I needed to go through hard times again. I had established the tools to go through hard times and not fall that direction. I started building a network. I had people I could talk to again. I could be more open about it. It's taken me years to be able to talk.
Basically, just you stopped internalizing it. You started being able to get it out.
Yeah. I stopped, and I started talking about, this is my story. And the more times I tell my story, the more times I'm able to share what I've gone through with other people, whether it's one-on-one with a veteran, and being able to identify with them, like, man, I understand where you are. I have my own story. It's not your story. My story's mine. Your story's yours. Right. Right. And not judging them. Oh, you were just a clerk or what? Right. No, you have your own story. Your story's yours. And being able to share that with people who don't quite get it. The civilian world. Share that with guys like you. Share that with guys like Chris Cox. Share that with guys like Charlie Daniels. Right? I've been able to share these stories with people, and they're going, yeah, okay, this is why we're doing what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And bringing people in, and it's coming to better understand, again, this way of life that we live in, the Western way of life, agriculture, ranching, rodeo, however you want to put it, and the morals and values that we share, and trying to plug them in. What's so great about team roping with veterans? You can't chuck a rock in any direction anywhere in this country and not find a team roping arena, right?
Especially where I live.
Yeah. So Bill Force sees me on the Chris Cox show and calls me up, cold calls me. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, Charlie. I didn't know who you were. I didn't follow rodeo. It wasn't on my radar, but Bill calls me up and he says, Charlie Crawford puts on this team roping deal for veterans, and he's explaining it to me. I saw you on Chris Cox. I want to have you come out. And all right, well, let's go check it out. I came out and checked it out the first year, and I was just blown away. You could feel it. You could feel the electricity. You could feel the camaraderie. You could feel the love. You could feel the fellowship. Trey's there, and I'm watching Junior and Trevor and everybody at the NFR showdown. The first year it was at NRS I'm watching it, and they're there. Hey man, shaking hands, and this is incredible. This is absolutely amazing. Starting to go to the NFR every year. I go to the NFR every year I don't necessarily go to the rodeo because I can't ever get into the rodeo because I'm too cheap and too broke to buy tickets to the rodeo. But I've been a couple times, but I go and I network. I go talk to people about what's going on, not just with Charlie 5, what's going on in this industry, what's going on among the programs that are out there for individuals, what's going on out there, and how do people fit in? How do people get involved? That's the hardest part, I think, is there's people out here, there's people here at this event today that have money spilling out of their pockets that want to help in some way that don't necessarily understand how they can help. Well, you can help by being present. You can help by volunteering. You can help by buying tickets to an event that supports these organizations. You can help by donating horses. You can help by doing all these things, and that gets you involved. And there's so much appreciation when that takes place that you can, that you feel the satisfaction and the gratitude that comes back from it. So it's, I go out there every year and I network, I talk to people, I meet people, and a lot of times I don't even talk about Charlie 5. Charlie 5, it's trickled down, man. If a veteran goes to a program, falls in love with horses, recognizes that working with horses is going to help him move forward, that's where I can step in, right? That's where I can come into play. and I can do my work. I can do the work that the Lord's called me to do, right? And then plug them into other things. So Charlie 5's grown from just giving a horse to a person and walking away. We're doing a lot more than that. We were doing it this week. I'm down here helping Derek get better at his riding. So when he goes to your clinic, he's not fighting with a horse in the box. He's not trying to figure out how to side pass a horse just to get it to move over a step. He's learning the mechanics. He's learning how to do that stuff. We have personal development coach, Jason Swick, day 6. He's a personal development coach. If you apply to our program and you've been accepted, I understand that you're willing to do the work, and we've built that relationship. You're willing to do the work. You're willing to put in the effort. Charlie 5 will pay. I'll pay Trey Johnson, if he'll do it, to coach you and help you to grow and become a better person, because that's going to affect your family. That's going to affect your job. That's going to affect your community. That's what we do. So
how did you come up with the name?
I love that you asked that question.
It's a good start, Charlie.
Yeah. Well, it's spelled a little bit different.
Well, still a good meaning. Still a good name.
The gun truck that we ran in Iraq, we're in Iraq. It's all desert. It's tan. It's brown. And we got handed a gun truck from somebody else's company. We were the last guys standing to get our gun truck, our Humvee. And it was like half green. And we were an Echo company, so all of our company's trucks were Echo, whatever. But we're the last guys standing there like, here's your truck. It's half green, and it's a Charlie truck, Charlie 5. And those guys, Brian and Joey, became close as you could be. Without having a ring on your finger, it's about as close as you could be. We lived every day of our lives together. And I toot my own horn. We were an incredible crew. We were a go-to crew, and hours and hours of our lives were spent in that truck, in some of the most difficult scenarios and situations I'd ever been in my life. And we all came home with 10 fingers and 10 toes. Came home to do our thing, and I didn't want to have a name that was. I wanted to have a name that somebody would ask about. It's Charlie 5, man. Like, it's weird. Like, it's not heroes helping you. Like, I didn't want to go down that road. I was like, I want somebody to ask. So came up with Charlie 5, our brand, the arrow and the diamond. The arrow in our brand is actually, this is where my nerd starts to show. The arrow in our brand is actually a map symbol for a heavy machine gun. I went to school to become a cartographer. That's what I went to college for, to make maps. I'm a nerd. I love maps. So I came up with that brand, and I named it Charlie 5. And our Horses for Human Healing was our tagline. Our other tagline is changing the lives of our nation's heroes, one horse at a time.
Real good.
That's where I came up with it.
So what is some of your future plans then? Now, you got a pretty good establishment. What's your future plans? And then you also talked about registration also, where people are able to register kind of through this program. And is it through your website? Is that how the registration?
Yeah. So if an individual is interested in receiving a horse or getting a horse through our organization, they can go to our website. They fill out an interest application, and it's kind of short and to the point. And you can ask a lot of them. I'll call you within 15, 20 minutes of you submitting.
And then the website is
charlie5.org, CHARLIEFIVE.org. It's words. And they can go there and they can look it up. And
so Charlie with an IE, and then 5 is spelled out. .org.
They can go there and they can fill it out. They can see what we can do. They can call me and text or email me and stuff like that. I'm
awesome.
pretty responsive on that.
And then what's the future look like?
The future looks incredible. And I got to thank you and Bill and a lot of other people for that, for recognizing that what we do is important and that we have a place in the industry. Establishing legitimacy when you haven't been in the industry for a long time is very difficult. It's very difficult. So the future, as we sit right now, I have 7 confirmed applicants in our queue. that means I need to get 7 horses to guys, from ranch horses to rope horses to there's guys that want rein cow horse. I'm like, dude, $50,000. I don't know where I'm going to swing $50,000 for a rein cow horse, but you know as well as I do, being a horse guy and being a horseman, I'm an aspiring horseman. The more horses you ride, the more horses you get on, the more horses you work with, the better off you're going to be down the road. So got 7 guys in queue, and I had a bad wreck on a horse in 2019. I broke my back. So training horses, especially horses that you don't know what's going to happen, it's not in the cards for me anymore. But I can ride. I can do a lot of stuff. But so we changed to a model, and it's more financially. It works out better financially. If I can raise money to buy a horse for someone, I can buy the right horse for them. They can have longevity with that horse. So being able to buy horses for the individual, pair them with that specific horse, and then help keep them on track, help them keep moving forward, help them. We establish goals early on in the process. What are your goals? What do you want to do? Right? What do you want to do? If you got a horse, what direction you want to go? A lot of guys want a team rope because it's so accessible, and it's a great part of the community to plug guys into.
It's a great outlet. You know, like you say, there's a lot of moving parts. Mm-hmm. You have the physical part of it. You have the mental part of it. Keeps you busy.
Right.
A lot of team ropings, and
exactly.
So it's available in a lot of different places. And there's some camaraderie. You know, you got a header and a healer, and so yeah, it's like golf too, in the perspective of, you know, there's no age, there's no gender.
Exactly.
You know, anyone can do it, and so it's a great sport. It's like the golf of, you know, rodeos. I would say team roping is kind of like golf, you know, for the NFL and NBA players. You know, when Father Time takes over, you know, they still want to compete, and so they like playing golf. Well, you know, for our industry, you know, a lot of the guys that quit riding bulls or broncs, and you can see Bobby Moat, he's out there doing good in the fraternities and, you know, picked up roping. And so it's especially, you know, for one to be able to compete, and then other for, you know, guys on the horsemanship side of things. You know, these rope horse fraternities now are starting to get it to where there's non-pros now where they're able to get judged with their horsemanship as well. And so there's a lot of different ways you can and angles you can go with the team roping for sure, to keep your mind busy.
And you can do it. I have a desire to be able to go out and rope and go do it on my time. Sadly, I'm not a competitive person. I'm just not. Being competitive, I gotta win. I've never been that guy. But being able to go out and rope and maybe go to a jackpot and catch a steer and
enjoy your time
and just spend time with the people.
Mm-hmm.
But the future, I think the future looks really good for us because we are stepping into a time in the Western world where horses are getting better all the time.
Getting better, and they're getting more expensive, and, you know, feed's getting expensive. This is a tough time right now, I think, for a lot of people, because the middle class right now is getting hammered. High fuel cost, insurance, homeowners insurance, just in Texas has went up 60%. You know, auto insurance, you know, just go down the line of everything. We're getting taxed to the gills, and you know, we're hoping really that our event, we're hoping we're celebrating making America great again in a big way. Because what it's also affected us with, as far as an organization, is our gala. You know, because it's you know, a lot of people tightening up right now.
Yeah.
You know, the Air Power Foundation is one of the biggest military fundraisers in the world. You know, they raise millions. They rent out the Globe Life there in Arlington and have a huge fundraiser, bands, guest speakers. I mean, it's huge out there on the baseball field. And they've canceled it this year because of the amount of things that, with the economy, you know, there's, you know, not as many people spending money, and it's tightening up. Well, we decided to hell with it. We're not backing down. Well, so liberty and loyalty is not backing down.
Well, our mission doesn't stop. It doesn't end just because people are falling on hard times. It doesn't end because someone's in political office. There's still men and women out there who need the support.
Absolutely. So we've decided we're going forward with our gala. And so love for anyone that's interested. to come. I'd love for people to come to it. I think it's going to be there in Decatur. It's on Saturday night, November 9th. And this is where we raise our funds. This is where we're able to present homes. This is where we're able to present horses.
Right.
To the event. And this is where we're able to help families that, sacrificed loved ones being murdered in the line of duty, as far as on the police side of things. And so this is a big deal for us. And I was like, you know what? The Western industry, there's enough good people that are going to continue to keep helping.
Absolutely.
And so, we're rocking on. Have you seen the list at our auction of the things that we're auctioning off?
Yeah.
So we have a silent auction as well, and that will be on our website, Liberty and Loyalty Foundation website. But we've got tickets to the Kentucky Derby. We have aerobatic flight and a game bird where you can kind of get that Top Gun experience. We've got 1,000.
Do they give you an air sickness bag?
They would me.
I would need one.
American Hats is donating a 1,000X hat. Guest will be part of a SWAT training. That's what I would love to do. SWAT training. That would be so awesome.
If not, you can come over to my house. I'll give you a BB gun and we can kick in some doors.
Shoot. We'll get Shane in there. We'll start shooting him.
I heard that on it. Poor Shane.
Poor Shane. Love you, Shane. You can go be a fireman for a day. And then we got a fly fishing trip, float down the Brazos River, experience a lifetime, Texas. There's so many things right here, that a helicopter hunt. And then one of my favorites, there's another bow hunt as well. And then the one I love the best is the chance to get the NFR experience. This is where you get to, you can rope, you can enter, the highest bidder can head in the NFR showdown, and he can pick whoever he wants to heal with. That was our biggest deal last year.
I remember.
Yeah.
I was there.
And one guy bought it and just gave it to a military guy, so he got to actually pick who he wanted to head for him. He had Clay Smith heading for him in the NFR showdown. Stuff that like civilians don't even get a chance to do unless you're going to try to make the NFR.
Right.
And so it's exciting to, man, like I said, love for people to come to this. I'm not trying to, it's not trying to play a pity role, but it's tough when things are tightening up with the election, and I get it and stuff like that. But, like you said, there's still people that need help.
There's still people.
And that is what's so great about the Western industry is that it will even in hard times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's so many opportunities. I mean, I've talked to people. I've told you before, like I go to the NFR and I go to the Cowboy Christmas and stuff, and I try to network. I really do. I try to talk to people about what's going on with the warrior community and the outlets that we have, Liberty and Loyalty, the Horns and Heroes Clinic, and Charlie 5 and stuff like that. And I was talking to, I go see Buck Taylor every year, and I was telling him about what y'all do. And he's like, you got to remind me of that because I got to go. I want to go check that out. I mean, he's such a nice guy, such a down-to-earth guy. So I got, Buck, if you're listening, come rope with us, right? Come be a part of it and trying to, again, just bridge that gap.
Remind everyone who Buck Taylor is for some of our younger listeners.
The younger listeners. So if you ever watched Tombstone, this is he was in Yellowstone, right? He was the rancher in Yellowstone. And then he was in Tombstone.
Turkey Creek Jack Johnson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my first year I went to the NFR. I went and met Buck Taylor, and I was talking to him.
And an amazing artist.
Incredible artist. Yes. Yeah. Incredible painter. I was talking to him, and he come back around the corner, and he handed me a painting, a print of Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday. And on the print, he signed, Jeremy, welcome home. Love, Buck.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so every year I go.
That's a frame.
Yeah. It's framed. It sits right above my desk where I do all my work and all my paperwork and stuff like that for that.
It's a great industry, isn't it?
It's an incredible industry. And for us, I'm going to plug, I know there's people here at the fraternity. I know there's trainers. I know there's, in every, discipline, I'm starting to understand how things work. Y'all get horses, you start to work with them, like 2-3 year olds, and they're not competing at the level you want to compete at. What are you going to do? You got a horse now, and you have options with that horse. You can sell him, you send him down the road. Well, keep in mind that there's organizations out here like Charlie 5. I can take that horse, and he's going to be a perfectly good horse for a veteran that's getting going. He's got a good foundation. He's sound. He's healthy. He's honest. And we could put a veteran on that horse. There's potential to put a veteran on that horse and send them down the road and help them. I've been talking to, you put me in contact with Taylor Thorpe.
Wesley Thorpe.
Wesley Thorpe. I'm sorry, I've had too many Tanners, Taylors, Wesleys going on this week, but Wesley Thorpe, been talking to Wesley Thorpe about a horse, and we're trying to work out a deal. So we pay for the horse, a partial donation. And that horse has so many possibilities in our organization. We can give him to a vet. Can you imagine? This horse has been trained by Wesley Thorpe, come from Wesley Thorpe. You want to be a header, you want to go ahead, you can take that horse and I'm learning the team rope inside, lower numbers, middle number ropers. You could take that horse and you could make a showing. You could do really well. It plugs you in. We could take that and give it to a vet. We could take that horse and sell him and maybe buy 2 or 3 horses for other guys. We can pass that horse on to another organization that can use it in their program, where that horse is not just going to serve one person, but that horse could virtually serve hundreds or thousands of men and women who are doing this stuff. So those are things that I try to look for when I come to these events, try to talk to people. Hey, you come across a horse? I called you. Charlie, I got a guy, I'm looking for a horse. I need to get a horse. Let me know if you come across anything. If it works, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. I've been in this industry long enough. I've been doing what I've been doing long enough to know that I don't get my feelings hurt if someone tells me no. I've been told no far more times than I've been told yes. Mm-hmm. But when we get that one that works, when we get that yes, yep. when somebody will come down on price, I'm telling you right now, I have $16,050 in Charlie Five's checking account. That's what I have. I'm not going to pull any punches with you. That's what I got. That's going to a vet. Mm-hmm. I don't get paid. There's no money going in my pocket. We're not paying for horses anymore as far as feed and keeping a horse at the place because I'm not training anymore. But last year, you were there. John Tidwell lost his horse just before the Horns and Heroes event. Colicked, had to put his horse down. We'd just gotten him a horse. We put it out there. We put it out there to the world that we're in Decatur, Texas for this week, and we're looking for a horse for a veteran that needs it. And the world showed up. And we were able to buy John Tidwell another rope horse, JR, that he's still roping off of, still doing good things off of, and he's happy as a clam, right? I'm saying that again. I have 7 guys in my queue. I'm bringing Bill Norman in from California, who's been waiting for a horse for over a year to rope off of. If you're in Decatur, if you're around Decatur, you want to come to Decatur, come rope, come enter the ropings, bring a horse you got for sale. I put Bill Norman on horses, and I'll spend that $16,000 to buy Bill Norman a horse. That's what we do, right? If you've got goods or services you want to donate, that translates into helping these other organizations, building homes for heroes, the Brotherhood of the Fallen, the Firefighter Foundation. I can't remember the full name of them. Charlie Five. Help us help these guys get down the road.
Yep.
Help us help.
Well, and
these
this
guys.
just, like I say, this fits our industry so well, to be able to pair that. And so, yeah, like I said, we're going to move forward to this gala. It's going to be a great gala.
Absolutely.
Hopefully after the election, it's going to be great. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be a beautiful election. It's going to be better than any gala we've ever had.
It's going to be fantastic.
It's going to be beautiful, fantastic.
One of the things I thought was the funniest last year was the person who brought in the Bud Light to be auctioned off. That
was glorious. Yeah.
But last year, y'all gave us the largest single donation Charlie Five has ever been presented. That was the largest single donation we've ever received. 10,000 here. Well, take that back. The Charlie Daniels fiddle player, 2019, somewhere in there, donated. It was still the largest single donation. He donated a horse trailer to us. Not, Grandpa's 2-horse straight load. He donated a brand new custom built stock trailer that I can haul horses up and down the road. I can get him to these men and women.
Right.
He was incredible and a huge supporter of what we do, and they still support us. They help us get horses for these guys. They help us by helping fund a clinic every year. We just started last year at War Horses to help these participants grow in their horsemanship. You learn a lot riding dinks, right? You learn a lot riding trash. But imagine what it's like to you get your own horse, you take it home, you're working with it, and you get to go ride some of these high-end reining cow horses, right? And what that does for you, you learn what a horse is supposed to do and what it's really able to do. And you can take that home and apply that to your horse. But this gala is, every year I've gone, it's been a blast. It's been a blast. We actually, if you come to the gala, find me. I'll introduce you to some of our participants, some of the guys that have received horses through our program.
Because he was there 2 years ago. He won the top hand, Greg Zeal. I seen him again last year. I was out there in Carolinas. He went to one of the clinics, and he's doing great.
He's doing incredible.
But he's got a heck of a story.
He has an incredible story.
Because he was out there in Vegas during the shooting, correct? Great dude.
Great guy. Loves roping. He's actually, I think it's this weekend, he has a nonprofit organization in South Carolina where he does equine assisted learning. The horse that we got to Greg, Midnight, he uses in his program. Kids go to the park. They do things in the park where he teaches kids how to read using horses.
No kidding.
Because what they'll do is they'll take the horse out there, and the kids aren't embarrassed to read to a horse. The horse isn't going to judge you, right? So they teach him literacy using horses, and he uses that horse in that program. He's doing phenomenal. They're doing a dummy roping to raise money for their program out in South Carolina. They just got hammered.
Yes.
They just got hammered with that hurricane. Almost had to call that off. They're still moving forward with it, and they're helping kids in the community.
Good for him.
Greg's not going to make it out this year. He's got too many irons in the fire. Derek will be there, obviously. Jake Greenleaf, who has an incredible story. Jake has become a great mentor of mine. He surpassed. I mean, he was in the Marine Corps, almost died in a helicopter crash, and has an incredible story of how horses helped him. We'll all be out there and supporting it. The greatest thing you can do if you're a listener, if you come to check out our website, our faces are there. My big ugly mugs everywhere. Talk to me. And if you tell me to shut up, I'll shut up and I'll go my own direction.
No, you're doing great. It's amazing what you're doing. I think it's very inspiring, and it's very important. I think too, like say, a lot of it doesn't take long too for a lot of us in this industry too, where we take advantage of our horses. We take them for granted. Excuse me. We take our horses for granted. Sometimes you forget like that animal, like what he truly does to the soul. Yeah. What you guys are doing truly does complement that, and so it's great what you're doing. And
it's like I asked you last year. If you woke up tomorrow and you've made your living, you made your life on the back of a horse. I mean that's a fair statement. I believe. I've asked this of Trevor Brazil. I've asked this of Trey Johnson. I've asked this of a lot of different high caliber individuals in the industry. If you woke up tomorrow and your horses were gone, think about how that would make you feel mentally and emotionally. Now you take that, what you could maybe think of how you're feeling at that time, and you think of a guy that's there and you give him a horse, what that's going to help him do and how that's going to help him build.
Because that's what my outlet is now. I was trying to show some of the fraternities and do clinics, and, I had too many things going on where I was trying to find the balance. And so now with doing as many clinics as I do, the military event that I do, podcasts now, got my website going where I'm trying to get a lot of digital downloads now. I'm trying to get online courses going. And so for me now, being able to get on my horse is my outlet now.
Yeah.
Like being able to train, being able to come here and watch this. I mean, golly, what I learned. This was my clinic at this rope horse fraternity. I was able to see what the judging card looked like on some of my stuff. I was able to interview a lot of the guys on the judging that would talk about what they're looking for. So I've learned a lot, but then also too was like, once I watched the guys that scored good, I'm like, okay, that's what they're doing. That's, so like this was my clinic. And, to be able to continually trying to better yourself, for me, that's what keeps me driving. I love that mentality. I just love that because, man, just for me, I'd get lost, and there for a while at the end of my roping career, I remember 19, it was horrible. I roped terrible. I wasn't roping good. I wasn't winning. And I was stuck. I was in that spot where I couldn't get no traction, and when you're not getting any better, I don't like that feeling.
No.
And when I was retired, I'm like, all right, no more trying to rope for a living. Now I'm going to get to rope. I want to enjoy it. Yeah. And the horsemanship side of it is a big driving force for me because it's an understanding. It's that leadership skills that you're trying to create, the get inside their heads to try to, can you solve this puzzle?
Can you break it down to the smallest thing? Am I just a half a step this way wrong? Am I not pulling on the lead rope or the reins just right? Mm-hmm. Is this horse not understanding exactly?
It's truly, horsemanship, in my opinion, is truly like the Bible. It's like a book that never ends. Mm-hmm. The Bible's, it's only that thick, but you continually keep learning something new every single day. And that feels like the horsemanship is the same.
Absolutely. And I haven't given up working with horses. The funny thing is, I usually end up giving anything that's good away, right? Because that's where I get my fulfillment. So I have one horse. I go drag a bull out of a pasture on, and he's great. But you want to try to get me to turn a steer in an arena? Well, that ain't going to happen. He just ain't got it, But I think that still being able to work with horses and do stuff on the scale that I can do it, it's a lot like you go out and you go out and ride your property. You have a trail through your property. You go out and ride, and you just take that time and you mm-hmm. breathe and you relax and you're just there.
I'm telling you that peace. Mm-hmm. It's so romantic, getting out there on a horse, leaving your phone.
Yep.
Or at least put it on silent in case you need your phone, in case something bad happens. But I mean, the main thing is like, get that presence back. Hear the birds.
I'm here. I'm present. And that peace, and that, again, we've said it before, that peace becomes internal. That peace quells mm-hmm. the hardship. I don't know how many times call my wife and ask her, when I'm struggling, and I still struggle, Charlie, I still struggle. I still have peaks and valleys. I still have a hard time with where I'm at and what's going on in life, and I deal with struggles. But I have the tools, and if it gets hard, I mean, just before I left, something was going on at home. I have a 2-year-old, so you know how that could be. I have a 2-year-old and I'm struggling to be a dad, and learning how to be a dad. I'm an older guy. I'm in my 40s, right? So I'm a young kid. I'm in my 40s. I'm set in my ways, and I tell my wife, I'm going to go out to the barn for 15 minutes. And really all it takes is going out to the barn, pulling a horse out of the stall and brushing that horse down. I've had veteran after veteran call me, and man, I'm having a tough time. Go out to your barn. Mm-hmm. Go out to your barn and brush your horse. Go ride. Just turn your stinking phone off, step out there and go ride for 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Go ride for 15 minutes. If you can't do that, if you can't set aside 15 minutes or 30 minutes to go ride, go take your horse out of the stall and brush him, groom him, clean his feet, talk to him, tell him your troubles, tell him what's going on, right? Get that stuff out there, let it go. And it's just an incredible way for the warrior, for the warrior to be able to come back and to be present, to breathe and feel. That was one of the things John Tidwell said. He said, Jeremy, I'm starting to feel again. You stop feeling. You just numb yourself to all the feelings and emotions, and you're just there. You're not present, but you're there.
Yeah.
So, whatever we can do, however we can help more men and women, whether it be sending them to team roping clinics with Charlie Crawford, to sending them to do these things. I mean, your event, I wouldn't come back to your event if I didn't believe in it. That's just the way I am. I've come back on my own accord every year.
Yeah, because you've been there probably 2 or 3 times, I feel like, before we even we've seen it ourselves, like what you're doing as well, to where last year we was able to.
This is the 4th year I'm coming back, right? The first year I came back for a couple of days. I stayed through the NFR showdown and I had to leave. And I saw it and I witnessed it. I didn't just say I witnessed it, and I was there and I was present, and I wrote my application for the deal because I struggle. Like I said, I'm struggling. I'm struggling because I can't train anymore. I realize that my back hurts. My body hurts. I get a horse that crow hops 3 jumps and I'm out for a week and I didn't even come off. Right.
Yeah.
So, but I want something to do that I can access on my own. If I get to feel it and I watched it from the sidelines, I'm going, man, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that. And everybody is so not just welcoming, but in all honesty, loving.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, man, I invite everyone to come to our gala. It's going to be a kick-ass event. We're cowboying up this year. We're not postponing anything. We're going to have it. And anyone with more information, charlie5.org.
Yes, sir.
Guys, look at that. And man, hopefully we'll see you guys at our event. And man, Jeremy, thanks for everything you do, man. You're truly doing God's work. So
thank you for everything. Thank you for everything you do. We appreciate it.
Got it, buddy.